South Africa has always been a land of resilience and opportunity, a place where communities thrive when everyone works together. From its roots in overcoming the struggles of apartheid to its ongoing fight for equality, the nation has long been a symbol of hope and unity for many. Yet today, that unity is beginning to crack. Immigrants are being blamed for everything from rising unemployment to crime, fueled by politicians eager to shift the blame for deeper systemic issues. The result? A dangerous surge in xenophobia, tearing communities apart and threatening the very ideals that South Africa fought so hard to achieve. In this video, we'll dive into South Africa's migration crisis, the rise in violent incidents, and whether immigrants can be blamed for its economic challenges, so you can better understand the true scope of this issue. The rise of xenophobia is not a new phenomenon in South Africa. Even after the fall of apartheid, immigrants, particularly from neighboring countries such as Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, have faced prejudice and discrimination. These immigrants are often labeled as job stealers, illegals, or even criminals. But recently, things have gotten worse. The numbers of violent incidents tied to xenophobia paint a grim picture. Over 900 xenophobic attacks have been recorded in South Africa since the end of apartheid in 1994. These attacks have resulted in the deaths of at least 630 people, and more than 123,700 people have been displaced from their homes due to xenophobic violence. Groups like Operation Doodle have intensified the issue. What started as a vigilante movement has become a political party, spreading harmful stereotypes about immigrants. They blame immigrants for taking jobs, occupying housing, and spreading drugs, further dividing communities. These harmful narratives thrive because many South Africans are frustrated. Youth unemployment is sky high, and many feel abandoned by their government. For some, aligning with vigilante groups like Operation Doodle is seen as more effective than waiting for government intervention, further deepening the divide. This growing sense of misplaced blame on immigrants, rather than confronting the country's systemic issues, could have dire consequences for South Africa's future. But here's the truth. South Africa's deep-rooted challenges are not caused by immigration, but by long-standing structural issues that have been left unaddressed. Corruption, poor governance, failing public services, and a lack of economic opportunities are the true culprits behind the country's woes, not immigrants. In fact, there are many myths surrounding immigrants in South Africa. Keep watching as we uncover these myths later on. So how big are the problems? Well, more than half of the population lives in poverty, with nearly 12 million people experiencing food insecurity. Of those, 2.5 million South Africans go hungry every day. The country's economic inequality is one of the most severe in the world. To make matters worse, a mere 10% of the population controls over 80% of the wealth, and youth unemployment in South Africa is a crisis, with over 75% of young people aged 15 to 24 not participating in the labor force. This means that a whole generation of young South Africans is being left behind, with little hope for a better future. These problems, poverty, inequality, and youth unemployment, are the real issues South Africa must confront. However, in public discourse, the focus has often shifted to blaming migrants for the country's struggles. Politicians and media outlets repeat the mantra that illegal immigrants are straining resources. But this oversimplified narrative distracts from the root causes of South Africa's economic mismanagement. The real issue lies in a mismanaged economy, one that has failed to meet the needs of its citizens, and in a government that has been unable or unwilling to create the conditions for sustainable growth. But when you dig deeper into these narratives, you'll find that they are all based on misinformation and a lack of understanding. There are 5 common myths you to know to understand these narratives. One of the most common myths is that South Africa is overrun with immigrants. In reality, immigrants make up just 6.5% of the population, approximately 3.95 million people. The notion that South Africa is overwhelmed by immigration is simply not supported by the facts. In fact, immigrants play an essential role in the country's economy, particularly in sectors like agriculture, construction, and retail, where they fill labor gaps that South African workers are unwilling or unable to take on. Then, there is the myth that immigrants are stealing jobs from locals. This narrative has been used to fuel resentment and create a false sense of competition between South Africans and immigrants. However, research shows that immigrants often create jobs rather than taking them. Studies have demonstrated that for every immigrant worker, approximately 2 local jobs are created, as immigrants often start small businesses or fill positions that would otherwise remain vacant. The myth that immigrants are responsible for rising crime rates is another harmful stereotype that has no basis in reality. There is no evidence linking immigration to higher crime rates in South Africa. In fact, studies have shown that local South Africans are more likely to be identified as perpetrators of crime than immigrants. The 4th common misconception is that most immigrants in South Africa are undocumented. While it is true that some immigrants may overstay their visas or fall out of status, this is largely a result of bureaucratic inefficiencies, corruption, and poor policy management, not a deliberate choice by the migrants themselves. Many immigrants enter South Africa legally, but struggle to maintain their status due to administrative challenges. Finally, the myth that immigrants are overburdening the public healthcare system is another false narrative that fuels xenophobia. Immigrants, at 6.5% of the population, cannot be responsible for the systemic failures of the healthcare system. The real issue lies in underfunding and inefficiencies in the public health sector, which has long struggled to provide adequate care to all South Africans, regardless of their immigration status. Unfortunately for South Africa, blaming immigrants will not solve the country's challenges. Instead, South Africa must focus on addressing the root causes of its struggles: corruption, economic inequality, and a lack of opportunities for the youth. The path forward won't be easy, but it is clear. The country's future depends on its ability to work together, to build bridges rather than walls. Only then can South Africa unlock its potential and build a future where everyone, citizens and immigrants alike, can live in peace and prosperity.